Today we're going to be getting into how glyphosate hides in your healthy foods. I think this is something to not be overly worried about, but at least conscious about, so that when you go food shopping, whether it's online or actually in the store, you know what to look for, you know what could be most contaminated, because glyphosate is causing major health issues. Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here today, episode 2748 of the Cabral Concept. If you want to find the show notes, the three big takeaways, head on over to stephencabral.com/2748. If you don't know what glyphosate is, it is an herbicide. So think of it as essentially a pesticide that's sprayed in fields and on crops, and people use it in their own, driveways and things like that in order to kill weeds. And it works really well. It's been used now for many, many decades. The problem is it starts to be contaminated into our food supply. The most common company using it right now is Monsanto and their Roundup. Roundup is supposed to be not allowed to be used for residential and only commercial, but that doesn't seem to necessarily be the case. And the big thing is it's being cross-contaminated with a lot of our healthier organic-based foods as well. So if you've never heard about this particular herbicide, glyphosate, 2.3 million pounds of it is actually sprayed every single year inside of the United States. When you think about that, that is almost 1 pound of this herbicide, this chemical, this toxin for every person in the United States. I mean, it's unbelievable. That's how basically ubiquitous it is. It's everywhere. I shared with you a case study of how to test your own glyphosate levels, or your children, ages 3 years and up. Any age is fine. It's a simple urine test you can do right at home. I will link that up for you here today. I'll also link up the case study as to what the lab test actually looks like. You can find that at stephencabral.com/2748. So I'm not going to get deep into this. Glyphosate's been around since around 1960, 1964. It was used originally to descale, basically to clean boilers and pipes. So it binds to minerals such as manganese, zinc, cobalt, and it helps to basically take them off these big metal cylinders to clean them. About a decade later, in 1974, Monsanto filed this to actually be used as an herbicide to kill weeds in certain plants, because it works on disrupting what is called the shikimate pathway. And this actually destroys the, let's call it like the nervous system of the plant. It's not exactly that, but it's a metabolic pathway within the plant. And then they filed in 2010 a third patent to use on glyphosate as an antibiotic, which kills beneficial bacteria in the gut. So here's the thing. Since the late 90s, early 2000s, natural health practitioners have been saying glyphosate is bad for you because it works on plants' bacteria, and your microbiome is essentially that as well. So while it may not be toxic to the blood, at least at a certain dosage, we know now it has been proven as a carcinogen to cause cancer. They actually lost a multi-million-dollar lawsuit on that. But we've been saying for the longest time, if it works there, it very well could be disrupting the gut microbiome. Lo and behold, 2010, they know it does, and they file a patent to use it as an antibiotic to actually destroy bacteria in the gut and the body. So really remarkable. I mean, this is a dangerous thing. It can lead to liver toxicity. It can lead to a breakdown in liver detoxification. As I told you, it can cause gut microbiome issues, so bloating, gas, all sorts of imbalances there. It can affect the immune system. It can affect, because obviously if you have a lot of intestinal permeability and leaky gut, could cause autoimmune issues. Can cause disruption in what's called sulfur-based metabolism and glutathione. So again, not allowing the liver to be able to process and break down a lot of chemicals from the environment. It's considered a xenoestrogen, so it can actually increase estrogen levels inside of the body. It can disrupt methylation metabolism, which could affect then DNA replication. It could potentially, again, not saying any of these things are founded yet, but potentially cause birth-based issues if you're messing with folate, especially methylfolate, and also may cause low thyroid as well and hypothyroidism. So this is nothing really to fool around with at all. I mean, it's honestly not. This is a true toxin. And unlike, like, let's just say like Teflon, right? Teflon nonstick pans, super carcinogen, definitely tied to cancer. But you can stay away from that if you're not using nonstick pans, right? The problem with glyphosate is that it's really hard to not be cross-contaminated with it. So your job is just to know about the foods that it's most likely to show up on. And that's what I want to share with you right now. So I'm going to name some companies, which I almost never do. But I'm going to name them, and I'm not going to say necessarily that they're bad, all right? What I want to share with you is mainly the foods that they're in lawsuits now with because of high levels of glyphosate. Okay, so when we're looking at like the worst foods that could possibly be contaminated, it's usually always a grain-based product. Sometimes there's cross-contamination with dairy. Sometimes it's definitely on fruit and vegetables. So I'll talk about those in a moment. What you specifically want to watch out for, though, is GMO-based foods. Many GMO-based foods were actually created to be resistant. It's called Roundup resistant or Ready Roundup resistant. And how that works is that there can be huge planes flying over massive fields and crops. And they can spray as much glyphosate as they want. And it will destroy the weeds growing, right? Because you don't want weeds in your garden. You don't want weeds in your fields because that will take the water, right? That'll take the nutrients from the soil, not your crops. So they spray this especially on young crops when there's not a full lot of ground cover, meaning like you can actually access the ground and the weeds, and then it kills those. Now, as they grow taller, they don't need as much typically because the weeds won't get the sunlight, right? And so they're not going to be able to grow. But they spray it at massive dosages because these are genetically modified organisms. They're not even really foods anymore, right? Because they've been adulterated to not actually be the same chemical composition as, let's just say, corn, right? So you've got natural corn and then you've got genetically modified corn. And so the genetically modified corn could be sprayed with lots of glyphosate and it's not going to hurt the corn. It's going to hurt the weeds because the corn's been genetically modified to be totally fine with dealing with this Roundup, right? Or this glyphosate. All right, so that's something to watch out for. Wheat is especially bad. A lot of people will make the argument that they can go over to France, they can go to Italy, they can go overseas, and they can eat wheat and bread, and they feel totally fine, and they come back to the U.S., and they feel terrible. Some people blame it on the glyphosate because they're not using at least the same level over in Europe. But it also could be that they're using more of a sourdough. It also could be that you're relaxed, right? You're enjoying yourself, you're stress-free. There's a lot of different ways, but what I'm going to say is this: there's absolutely a tie to glyphosate. Like, there's no doubt about that. Okay, so we're going to watch out for wheat especially and a lot of grains. Here's what I want to share you. I've got 6 examples. The first one is from General Mills, and they had to remove the 100% natural label from their Nature Valley granola bars because they're contaminated with glyphosate. Again, I'm not calling out these companies in a bad way. What I'm saying is granola, oats, we have to be careful, right? So unless the oats are tested to be organic and non-GMO, I don't know that there are GMO oats, but like non-GMO, that's great. Organic automatically means non-GMO, by the way, so you can just look for the organic symbol. Now, not a lot of companies, not every company can afford all the organic-based labels, and that's important to understand. If it says organic, though, that's important because it means it is organic even if they couldn't pay for it. Because there's a lot of, I shop at small farms that can't put the organic label on it. They can't. Like, they're not going to pay for that. They're not able to. All the prices for all their crops would go up, et cetera, or what they have to charge it at. So again, I know these farms, talk with the people. I'm totally fine with that. So a lot of it is based on your comfort level. But if you're going to, if they're organic, yeah, go to the farm, check it out, especially if it's a local farm. If you have kids, it's amazing. Like, I take my girls to farms all the time. We get to see the actual crops growing. We get to see the animals, and they've always done that since they were little. I'm not saying everyone's going to do that, but shop your local farmer's market. It would be really devious of them and illegal if you said, hey, these are organic. And they would say, yes, they are. We just don't have the certification. Okay. Anyway, I digress. So now another company, and I'm a fan of this company. I buy a lot of their products. Bob's Red Mill. Big fan of Bob's Red Mill. Will continue to purchase their products. However, they have a glyphosate contamination issue with some of their products. So the gluten-free flours, if it doesn't say organic on it, some of them were contaminated with glyphosate. Again, I still purchase their products. I don't purchase the non-organic ones. So like if I'm buying, like for example, I buy their baking soda and things like that. They don't need to be organic, right? When I'm looking at grains or I'm looking at fruits and I'm looking at vegetables, I'm looking for the organic. So great company, has always done things the right way. I think they're an employee-owned company. But yeah, there's some issues. Cross-contamination. So you have to be careful, right? You have to be careful. Glyphosate can be cross-contaminated. All right, third one is Quaker Oats. So these are big name companies, right? Quaker Oats, glyphosate contamination, 17 of their products tested positive for glyphosate. Not good, right? Not ideal. Fourth one, Panera Bread. Panera Bread, in their breads and sandwiches, there was glyphosate. That to me is not shocking. They're not telling you that these are organic-based breads. Like that, they're not saying that. And so I'm not shocked that there's glyphosate in them. If the product was sprayed, and the crazy thing is this, a lot of times you've got glyphosate sprayed in the very beginning of crops, and then you spray them at the very end to actually dry them out at the end of the harvest, right before they're basically ready to be harvested, so they don't mold. So like you get it in the beginning, and then it can take time to wash off. Like that would actually be ideal. But no, they spray them at the end of the season as well to help dry them out so they don't mold. So that's why wheat is really dangerous to get non-organic. All right, Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Random, right? So Ben & Jerry's ice cream, at least some of them, had glyphosate. And all 5 major orange juices, so don't buy orange juice. I mean, that's like the first case. Eat oranges. Don't buy the orange juice. Were contaminated with glyphosate. So I share these with you because they're ubiquitous. They are everywhere within our environment. So, what do we do? Like the thing is this, we try not to support GMO-based products. We try to buy organic whenever possible. And when we look at fruits, vegetables, and grains, especially important to buy organic. But if you can't, look for the glyphosate-free label, if there is one. They're not always tested because, again, that costs hundreds of dollars to test, right? Like, for example, our whole food bars over at Equilife, we pay for those to be tested to be glyphosate-free because although so this is what I want to share with you, the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. So we always choose foods that are part of the Clean 15. Right? If you can't get them organic, the Dirty Dozen, you always want to buy organic. I'll share that if you have no idea what I'm talking about with the Clean 15 foods and the Dirty Dozen foods. They come out every year by the Environmental Working Group. And I'm going to link up my latest podcast from this year on the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. So basically the Dirty Dozen, you always purchase organic or you don't eat because they're going to be contaminated. But the Clean 15, you can save some money if you want, if you're not able to purchase organic, and those would be okay. All right. So again, with wheat, I think it's important, since it's not always on the list, that is always purchased organic, that you do your best for sure. Like that's my big thing. And again, I understand you're out, you're enjoying a cheat meal, a flex meal, whatever you want to call it, and you're eating the bread and you're eating pasta. It's almost never going to be organic. So assume that you're going to get a little bit of glyphosate in there, right? So that's why for me, I don't go around every single day worrying. My family and I have made a decision that we're going to spend our money to purchase organic. We're going to purchase from companies, even if they're not certifying organic, that we know that they're using organic. We're going to buy clean food, clean meat, clean fish, all those different things. For myself, my 2 daughters, I know everyone can't do that. I know I'm fortunate to be in that position. I'm not saying that I'm not. So I'm giving you the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen to be able to do that. And then understanding that you may, again, if you're questioning, hey, am I good or am I not good, run the glyphosate test, right? For you, your family, it's a simple urine test. I'll link that up at stephencabral.com/2748. All the 3 big takeaways will be there today. Again, I'm a big advocate of doing a functional medicine detox every quarter. I can't link that up for sure, but I'll link up everything I spoke about today, plus additional information at stephencabral.com/2748. I would love to hear your comments. Would love to hear your feedback. If you want a part 2 to this show, part 3 to this show, happy to do that. I'll link up the glyphosate case studies for you as well. So just let me know. Again, this podcast is for you. I want to make sure that I'm covering topics that are important to you. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. I appreciate you. Do feel free to share the show with anyone you believe it could serve. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.